are 200 other boys in this camp. I could explain to you what might happen if we leave him here, but I'm a lady and I don't use that kind of language. But I have heard a few choice phrases like ilf, bear, cub, femme, edging, pup play, daddy, twink, twunk, padam, padam, sashay away, and what was the last one? Share the farewell tour. And then share the farewell tour. But like I said, I'm a lady. Welcome to another episode of Desperate Housewives Revisited, a spinoff of Contending at the Water Cooler, a podcast that wonders how much do you want to hear two guys wondering how much suburban housewives actually want to know about their neighbors. This week we are diving into Season 1, Episode 19, Live Alone and Like It. I am Joey Moser, and I am joined by my co-host, Clarence Moy. Hello, Clarence.
Hello, Joey, and happy Pride to you.
Happy Pride. Very appropriate to have this episode recording as Columbus is having Pride. I've already been drunk once, so woo.
Once, Joey? Really?
Just once this weekend. Let me go back. Once
okay,
this
there
weekend.
we go. There we go.
Yeah, it is. Clarity matters.
All right. I'm doing fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's get into this episode because I'm not super into this episode, but we could talk about why.
Sure.
Yeah. Live Alone and Like It, Joey. What's that title reference coming from?
That is from a Stephen Sondheim song that I believe was only in Dick Tracy. Stephen Sondheim did a lot of the original music for Dick Tracy the movie. That was like 1991, I think. And
1990.
1990. Wow. I used to be obsessed with that movie. I love that movie so much.
Yeah, no, it's a really good movie, and it's unfortunate that it's always been seen as a bit of a flop because it didn't make a lot of money. But creatively, it's enormous, and I believe it did win Stephen Sondheim an Academy Award for Best Original Song.
It did. It won him for Sooner or Later. Yeah, he did that song. That was my first introduction of knowing who Mandy Patinkin was, because Mandy Patinkin was the piano player. He played 88 keys in that movie. Yep. And I remember when I was in like theater school, they always said you should always have in your audition book, you should always have a Sondheim song, even though you shouldn't bring a Sondheim song into an audition, but you should have one in case they ask for one. And my Sondheim song was not Live Alone and Like It, but it was What Can You Lose from Dick Tracy. And everyone always told me, what a unique choice for your book, because no one knows what the fuck that is.
It's my favorite song from Dick Tracy, actually.
That's my favorite song from Dick Tracy. Yeah, it's a great song.
It's a really great song. I mean, it's beautifully sung by both Mandy Patinkin and Madonna.
Yeah, I used to have I don't know where it is. I used to have a Madonna, like Breathless Mahoney, like I guess action figure. I have no idea where it is. It's probably gone, but because don't know how my parents didn't know I was gay, but here we are.
All right. So I was just reading that another choice for the title of the episode was An Unexpected Song from an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, Song and Dance. Wow. Good choice on changing it, because Unexpected Song doesn't make any sense in the context of this. Live Alone and Like It, you can understand. An Unexpected Song, no.
No. I sang Unexpected Song at a wedding, and that was interesting because they were supposed to walk down like the aisle to it, and then I was like, wow, that aisle is short, the song is a lot longer than you guys expected, so there I was still singing that song. I think Live Alone and Like It, I really feel like the title should be changed to Live Alone and I Don't Like It, because there's a lot of that could apply to Susan, that could apply to Mrs. McCluskey, this could apply to what Bree thinks that her son's life is going to lead to.
Right.
So, interesting choice.
Indeed. Why don't we get started with the opener, which, why don't you take Lynette this week?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So Lynette is basically daydreaming of Mrs. McCluskey dying, which I thought was a really dark. She dreams of a every morning she went out to take out her trash. Lynette Scavo would engage in a little daydream. She'd think Karen McCluskey would keel over. Really sort of funny visual bit of her keeling over the garden hose still going, and then she would. The house would be bought by a lovely Swedish family with two adorable twin daughters, and then the daughters, of course, would see through their sons' terrorizing personalities and marry them and have a wedding that Lynette would not, a double wedding that Lynette would not have to pay for. Um, so Lynette is tied to Mrs. McCluskey a lot in this episode. She, at one point, okay, so it opens with McCluskey stealing her garbage cans because her garbage cans have been out for 2 days, longer than the garbage was collected. And she's like, well, I just assumed you didn't want them anymore, so I'm just going to take them. And so Lynette's like, haha, you're a crazy old lady. And she takes her garbage cans back and she turns around, seeing Mrs. McCluskey go back to her house. Mrs. McCluskey is crawling back to her door. And there's a Lynette's like, you okay? You good? I'm gonna go. And so Lynette calls an ambulance, dashing her dreams of her neighbors dying and the Swedish, I guess, IKEA neighbors moving in. And it turns out that there's a funny visual of the Swedish family like waving goodbye to her. So Mrs. McCluskey was in the hospital and she knocks back on Lynette's door. And Lynette's like, oh, wow, you're back so soon. And Mrs. McCluskey says, well, I OD'd on my arthritis medication. One pill, I can open a jar. 4 pills, I'm face down crawling for my life. And she gives her, as a thank you, a Tiffany lamp. I was very excited because I've always wanted a Tiffany lamp. My mother-in-law has a gorgeous, tall, like dark metal one with like grapes on it. And every time I'm there for the holidays, I was like, you know who you can leave that to? Me. Which I guess is macabre all on its own. Lynette is sort of really taken aback by it. She's like, okay, Tiffany lamp. That is how very nice. And, here's a gift for not letting me die on my lawn. And then Mrs. McCluskey goes so far as to give Lynette a hug. And then Lynette is trying to like cut the whole thing short. She's really taken aback by it. And Lynette comes in, or McCluskey comes in and starts jabbering away about her life. So I guess Lynette has a friend that she didn't ask for or want. The next time we see Lynette, she's trying to go out, I guess, with her phone after she hangs up portable telephones. And she opens the door, and Mrs. McCluskey. I
didn't notice that.
Yeah, she's like the door is open, is in her hand. And she opens the door again, and Mrs. McCluskey now, not with a lamp, she has a basket of avocados because she has a tree and she hates it, but she assumes that it's the way that she says guacamole. We can fire up a fresh batch of guacamole, and Lynette is like, no, I have so many errands to do. She's like, oh, great. Mrs. McCluskey says, I have to go to the pharmacy. And Lynette is trying to be very firm with her. And she's like, no, I don't. Basically, like, I don't want to spend time with you. And Karen, I should stop saying Mrs. McCluskey, so it's kind of hard to say. Karen McCluskey says, well, I think it's really interesting that you do not want to spend time with me, but you had no qualms about taking my beautiful Tiffany lamp. So Lynette, in a sort of Lynette fashion, is like, fine, take the fucking lamp back, lady. She's like, well, I don't have a place for it. And also, if you're going to take a genuine Tiffany lamp and put it in the Scavo household, I understand you want to put it in your living room because you want people to see it, but that motherfucker is going to get broken in 2 seconds flat.
I mean, it was on the edge of the table, and those boys, yeah, that thing.
No. Yeah, like, I think it's actually safer to have it in McCluskey's house again.
It's safer to put it in the middle of the street than it is to leave it in the Scavo house.
In those garbage cans that have been left out, like that would be safer. In the 20 minutes that her children aren't there. So a UPS man stops over at Lynette's house because Mrs. McCluskey didn't answer her door. And so Lynette is just like, well, that shouldn't go anywhere. Just like leave it. She's like, nope. She didn't sign for it. So Lynette does, and she drops it off at her doorstep and rings the doorbell and runs away. And then later she sees, after she comes home, the package is still sitting on her door. So she assumes that maybe her Swedish neighbor fantasy will come true. But I guess there's a little bit of guilt attached to it. And Tom says that says, you should suck it up and go visit her, even if, it's going to cost you, 2 hours of your life. What does Tom care? It's not Tom. No skin off Tom's ass. So he eventually goes over to Mrs. McCluskey's house and finds her sitting in there. She has not been taking her medication, and that's why she could not answer the door.
Right, because that's why she fell at the beginning of the episode, was because she had taken too many of her arthritis pills, and it sent her into some sort of seizure.
Yes. So Lynette offers to help, and McCluskey says she's fine. And she needs help with her pills, and she turns out there's childproof caps on it. And I imagine somebody with arthritis is going to have some difficulty with that. And McCluskey says, I don't want you to feel obligated. And Lynette says something I think is actually kind of sweet, where she says, that's what half of life is all about. We don't have to be friends, but we can be like neighborly and nice to each other. I can help you out once in a while. And so the sort of narrative between Lynette and McCluskey sort of ends with being like, I'll help you because I don't want to have a guilt you go. I just keel over and die. And I'm actually a nice person, despite the blonde white people that could move in, and I could sell off my children to you. So that is kind of a little bit of a step forward between their relationships. That's pretty much what happens between them.
Yeah, I do love the moment that Lynette has where she does say something to the effect of, we may not have to like each other, but at least we can be human beings and we can help each other. Something that I think could be remembered even today. We often talk about whether or not Desperate Housewives has any relevance in 2025, and that line has a lot of relevance in 2025, I would say.
Yeah, I would.
All right. I will jump into Gabby and Lynette so that we can close with you talking about Brie, because I think this probably means a lot to you. Let me just knock out Susan real quick, because this is probably the worst subplot that Susan has had all year, that Terry Hatchers has had all year.
Yeah. She's sad.
She's still sad. Her mom is going out, and she's trying to hit on the ice cream truck driver. She doesn't have high standards. I mean, Susan's mother, of course, played by the fantastic, oh gosh, I blanked on her name, Leslie Ann Warren. Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry, Joey.
How dare you?
I remembered. She's a great looking woman, and she does not look her age, whatever her age is. No. She doesn't look her age, but she has low standards, because she goes for the Bob Newhart diner owner, the ice cream truck driver, and some guy she met in a bar who is very clearly doesn't like, I don't want to say doesn't belong in Wisteria Lane, but definitely feels like he came from, that bad side of town that Susan likes to dabble in every now and again, and Bree and Rex like to dump cars in.
Yeah, the kind of man who apparently has peppermint schnapps around. Yeah, that's the kind of man you don't want in your house.
So Susan's mom is like, you're so sad. Let's go out. Let's do things. I want you to get out, mingle. Susan doesn't want to do it. She won't leave the house. She's still in love with Mike. Susan's mom even goes over across the street to tell Mike, hey, Susan's still in love with you, but he's got his own mess going on. And he's like, I don't have time for Susan right now. Sorry. And kind of slams the door in Susan's mother's face. So Susan's mother sets up a double date because she wants to go out, but the guy that she's interested in, his buddy, doesn't have a date. So they party a little bit in Susan's house with the aforementioned peppermint schnapps. Nothing goes well. Susan and her mom kind of have a little bit of a meltdown. Susan kind of probably justly calls her mother out for, hey, you don't really care that much about me. You just want to have a guilt-free time. You just want to bring somebody along to help your paramour's buddy feel good. So that's really kind of it with Susan. There's just nothing. I mean, it's another episode of Sad Susan. This is what, the third one in a row now, Sad Susan?
Sad Susan.
So
it's like, yeah, it really makes me miss I was like, can we have Edie, please? I want some Edie.
Yeah, Edie needs to come in and punch her in the face again. Just very quickly, I'll talk about Mike. So sure. The reason that Mike is very busy and doesn't have time for Susan, even though it's very obvious that she still loves him. Noah is the guy who has hired Mike to move to Wisteria Lane and investigate the disappearance of his daughter, Mike's former girlfriend, Deirdre. They find out that Deirdre is dead, that Deirdre was chopped up and put inside a toy chest that was dropped into a river by an idiot and floated up again. And so the bones have been identified, and it is unfortunately Deirdre's body. And Noah, she's been missing for 15 years, but he perhaps wasn't expecting this answer. So he's very upset. He spends a lot of time in the cemetery, trying to find out what kind of tombstone she should have. And he's just staring at her picture. Mike finds out. Mike is surprised and devastated. I mean, this woman's been missing for 15 years. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? Right? I mean, am I wrong about that?
No,
like,
I thought
guys
so too,
are just like,
yeah, when he was just like, I now have to bury my baby. And it's been a decade and a half. I don't know, maybe it obviously has to feel different when you realize somebody actually is dead, but like, you didn't think she was dead? Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really what's going on with Mike. And he is doing some investigation. There's Noah had paid off a corrupt cop in Wisteria Lane, or Fairview, to let Mike go and forget about Mike in terms of the previous death of Martha Huber. So the cop has a file of this case that he is going to give Mike to help Mike in his investigation. But the corrupt cop that is being bribed by Noah thinks that, has seen Mike's file, understands it. We find out this time that he is a cop killer in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. I think this is the first time that we know this, correct?
Mm-hmm. I think it was Susan said that to her mother.
Okay. So the corrupt cop beats up Mike and causes some severe damage around the face, which magically by the end of the episode has been completely healed.
Don't get blood on the file. It's like, yeah.
So Mike goes through the file and he gets back to the sheet of paper that we've seen a couple of times of all of the clients that purchased this particular super ugly child's toy chest.
Yeah.
And Paul Young's name is on that list. So we're kind of circling back a little bit, to the beginning.
We have a mystery. Can I please say on the list, the name above Paul Young's name is Keith, and Keith is spelled wrong.
How is it spelled?
It's spelled Kieth. And I was like, who spells Keith like that? Maybe there are people named Keith like that. I know like 3 people in my life named Keith, and none of them spell their name Kieth. Just
I've never seen that name spelled that way. I was hoping it would be like Keith from Keith from Righteous Gemstones, which is, you don't watch Righteous Gemstones, but there's a character named Keith. It's Keef Anyway, so that's what's going on in Susan and Mike's world. There's a slow-mo walk out to the mailbox where they both kind of glance wistfully across the street at each other, but then turn around and, whatever. I can only take so much more of this. So unless you have something else to add to Susan, which I doubt you do, because
I don't.
Susan's storylines aren't your favorite. Let me hop over to the days of our marital abuse. The Solis family. So Gabby has frozen Carlos out of bed. He now has to sleep in all kinds of different rooms across the house because she has been forced to sign the post-nup. And she very rightly says, don't you ever hurt me again. If you ever hurt me again, I will kill you. And then he says, well, if you leave me, I will kill you. And Gabby has one of the best lines of the show when she says, gee, too bad we're not having sex with all this passion. So
marriage.
Yeah, exactly. The most dysfunctional marriage on the show, and even more dysfunctional than the Van de Kamps, I would argue. So Carlos decides that if he's not going to be able to sleep in his bed, then she's not going to be able to go shopping. So he freezes all her credit cards, and therefore she is stuck. She's stuck in a marriage that right now she doesn't like, and she has no ability to shop. So she's miserable. So what does she do when she's miserable? Why, she saunters on down to her underage lover's apartment and decides to engage in soothing intercourse with him.
Yes.
So John, this scene offers up my favorite line of the episode, where it's actually a dialogue here where John says, "What about me? Can I be your plan B?" And Gabrielle says, "Damn it, John, what's our new rule?" And John says, and I have to credit the actor here. He sings this very kind of hangdog expression. He goes, "Stop pretending we have a future." Gabrielle says, "Thank you." It's just so sick and twisted, but really kind of funny at the same time. He offers to give her his student credit card, which the minute that he hands this card over to her and she agrees and then pays him back with sex, which I'm not going to comment on that. So the minute he hands it over, I think, how far is she going to get with this? Like,
I think it was overdrawn the minute it was in her hand.
Yeah. I mean, the limit on these cards, not super, super high. No. And one pair of shoes could very easily max this card out. But so Gabrielle goes out shopping. She buys a new pair of shoes and she goes down to a restaurant to have a fancy dinner. But the card has been declined, and it has been declined multiple times. She has no other card. She has no cash. So she doesn't know what to do. She calls John, and John says, yeah, so there was some unusual activity because young men don't often go to high-end shoe stores and buy large quantities of shoes. So the credit card company very rightly recognized that as a suspicious transaction and called John's mother, who co-signed for the card. And she asked John what was going on, and he didn't want to tell her what the truth was, which is in Gabrielle's best interest because I'm pretty sure she would have ended up in jail. But John says, oh, it was stolen. So the mom cancels the card. So therefore, that's why the card doesn't work. So what does Gabrielle do? Well, she does what Gabrielle always does. She bats her eyelashes. She spots a eligible, rich, single man across the restaurant and tells him, has some chat with him, has a couple of drinks with him, and then tells him, hey, you know what? I'm in a relationship. So, this can't go any farther. And he's like, you know what? That's okay. Here, let me just pick up the bill. And so therefore her meal is paid for. So she goes home and flaunts her new pair of shoes in front of Carlos. And this was kind of daring. I don't know what you think about this scene, but this was daring of her where she says, I'm a hot woman and I will do anything. And I'm paraphrasing here, but she's basically saying, I will do anything I can to get my way, to get money, to get what I want. And that includes using my feminine wiles, essentially. So Carlos, that does not sit well with Carlos, clearly. And so eventually he does end up tearing up the post-nup, and she welcomes him back to their bed with open arms. So very sick, twisted, particularly after following up from last week's episode where he nearly beats her because she won't sign the post-nup. And and knowing where their relationship goes in the future. It's just a very tumultuous partnership there. But that is where we have Gabby in this episode.
Anything? I think maybe that she knows one man has slipped and fallen out of the bath, on bathtub water before, and Carlos is luxuriating in a bubble bath. So maybe she thinks, well, if he tries to come after me, he'll slip and fall and have to end up in the hospital too, just like the gay cable guy. Um, um, yeah, I mean, one of my favorite lines, it's probably not my favorite line, and it's not funny because usually we pick like funny lines, but she says to him, "I'm a pretty girl, and pretty girls are never lonely."
Yeah.
Which is
not true.
Dynamic. No, it's not true. But it's damn, it is what's really messed up emotional warfare between this married couple.
And totally.
Yeah.
And Carlos will eventually, we assume, go to this prison that he has this 8-month prison sentence that he has agreed to at some point. So she will learn to be lonely. Although I don't know how much lonelier she'll be with John's credit card.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
Yeah. All right. So why don't we close out with Bree? So what's going on with Bree, Joey?
So I find this storyline to be really interesting, especially because I think of the 4 housewives. The characters, I think this may be me for my own personal experience, but I think Bree Vandekamp is very much loved by the gays, despite a lot of her personal opinions. And, so basically what happens is Rex and Bree go to Camp Hennessy, and Rex wants to keep Andrew at the camp for, I think he says, at least 3 more weeks. And Bree's just like, hello, it is a giant circle jerk in there. We need to get him out. Some crazy stuff is going to happen. And, it's the kind of thing where 2004, you people who are conservative keep calling it a lifestyle. And Rex says, I can tell that you're freaked out by the whole gay thing. And Rex basically tells Bree Vandekamp, of all characters, hey, man, be cool. So they walk out, or I'm sorry, Andrew walks out, and Rex tells him, like, it's glad to have you back. And then Bree gives her son a hug. And my favorite line of the episode is she hugs him and they break the hug. And she says, Andrew, I would love you even if you were a murderer, which he kind of is, but because he hit Mrs. Solis with his car. But that's a whole other thing that is not addressed.
No, it is also, sorry to interrupt you, but it is also not addressed that even though John, and I forgot to mention this, so you saying Mrs. Solis reminded me, even though John has proposed to her, has loaned her his credit card, he still calls Gabby Mrs. Solis. Still. Anyway, continue.
It's so twisted. So Rex and Bree are at home, and they have invited, Bree has invited Reverend Sykes over to dinner, hoping that the Christian influence will, I don't know, strike fear into him. And the Reverend is basically just like, hey, you can't, I think he says, you can't enter paradise if you are butt fucking, which is kind of what he says. And Bree gets upset whenever the Reverend doesn't keep pushing about, changing his lifestyle. And she, she can't stand back and watch Andrew, become a full-fledged, apparently happy homosexual. And Rex is saying, it is our job to support him. And very kind of, I think it's always rare whenever you see a father stand up for their gay son rather than the mother, because, cliche that mothers are more nurturing. I know that's opening a whole can of worms of parental world, blah, blah, blah. And then Bree gets so mad that she lashes out and just blurts out, he makes me beat him with a riding crop and I let him. It's no wonder you're so perverted. Look who your parents are. She gets up and storms off. And yeah, Bree's not getting her way because she loves Jesus. So the next time we see Bree, she's looking through her photo album and she wants Andrew to come sit down next to her. It's baby pictures, and she turns to a discussion about how he had a troublesome birth, about how the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. And Bree told the doctor to only be concerned about the life of Andrew. This is really politically charged if you look at it in 2025's
Mhm.
viewpoint, probably. Saying that, she's like, so I would die for you. That's sort of an interesting thing to say when you know that Bree is a sort of like a fierce mom who will always stand up for her kids, hiding evidence in a bad neighborhood, that sort of thing. Um, this is a which leads to, and I will say on a sort of like personal note, she gets genuinely upset and saying that if he doesn't change, he may not go get into heaven. And
Yeah.
it's really messed up. And that I actually had there was a I know I had a parental figure in my life when I was like in my early this was like early 2000, right, well, like 2006. I had a friend who wanted me to get baptized really badly, and I was
Mhm.
like, I'm not, that's not my scene, lady, I don't want to do that. And she literally straight up told me, I want you to get baptized because if you don't get baptized, you're not going to get into heaven. And I was like, and I remember being like, this is almost 20 years ago, and I was like, that's fucked up. Why would you say that to anybody? You should not tell anyone that. That's not going to sell anyone on religion. um so Andrew agrees to go to talk to Reverend Sykes, and Bree gives him a genuinely emotional um hug, a straight hug. And he seems very uncomfortable. um it's worth noting that Andrew does go to see Reverend Sykes, and Sykes says, he was like, but you are you're not heterosexual. And he said, well, let me put it this way. I like vanilla ice cream, but sometimes I like to have chocolate. And he's like, you know what I mean? And Reverend Sykes was like, yes, I do. I'm a priest. Um, so he says that he has sort of like created a plan to get back at his mother, where he says that I'm going to make her believe that I am so good, and I will eat my vegetables, and I will get straight A's, and I will be the angel child that she wants me to be. And then I'm going to do something. I'm going to, I guess, unleash gay fury. This is how you know the character is gay, because this sounds really petty and really dramatic and really complicated for just for the drama. And he says that he's going to basically unleash something so horrible and is going to rock her emotionally so badly. And he can't wait. He's almost drooling at the concept of making his mother um, hurt. And yeah. And then the end of the episode, we see them, I think, leaving church, and Bree shakes Reverend Sykes' hand. And she's like, I love that sermon. I love that. And Andrew is sort of like twirling his little gay mustache and like winking. He's like, "Yep, very good sermon. I'm gonna fuck this shit up." Like, it's so bitchy. So yeah, the character is gay. Yeah.
Character is definitely gay. He does lie to the to Reverend Sykes at the beginning because he says, "Oh no, I'm not gay."
Oh yeah.
That
No, I'm not
that
gay.
he's pretending. He's trying to get out of this. He's trying to get the heat off his back,
Mm-hmm.
which I think in some ways he does succeed. Another interesting thing about this episode is it is the second time this season. It's almost like his book ending this season where Bree deliberately and horribly embarrasses Rex by revealing some sort of sexual secret about his life. The first time,
Yeah.
of course, being at the group dinner party where she says Rex cries when he ejaculates, and now
Yeah.
he beats her with a riding crop, which I feel offended and cheapened and cheated because we don't have scenes of Rex Van de Kamp beating Bree with a riding crop, or maybe Bree beating Rex with a riding crop. Like I feel like I need to see that.
That is, I'm telling you, that is a calling that Brie Vandekamp has that is so perfectly aligned with her rigidity. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, if if she weren't religious and principled and moral, she would have been a far better neighborhood sex worker than Maisie Gibbons.
Oh yeah, like that OnlyFans would be on
she'd
fire.
Be a millionaire.
On fire. Like she could buy the whole block of houses. Like imagine what she could do with the landscaping. Like
yes, but instead, Andrew is going to quote rock her world with his secret gay plotting.
Yes. He's like, I'm going to put Drag Race on every channel on the TV, and she won't be able to do it, handle it.
Yeah. I mean, she has so many particularities about her. Like you could do the most innocuous thing and it would destroy her. Like you could mix up all the silverware because I'm sure she has it lined and arranged in a very specific way. You could just mix it all up and make her think she's going crazy and gaslight her. And it would actually make a pretty compelling movie, the gaslighting of Brie Vandekamp.
That's right. That'd be amazing. Marsha, we're going to reach out to your people.
Free Palestine. All right. That wraps our coverage of the 4 Housewives. I think that was anything else. There weren't that many subplots this time. There was no Felicia Tillman. No. There was no Edie.
There weren't even any kids. There was no Julie. There was no,
no twins,
no twins.
Thank God.
I needed a break. I'm like, actually the scene at the beginning when they're arguing over the trash cans, there are toys everywhere. I would be as mad as Lynette all the time too. I'm telling you.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
But I just to get back to what I said at the beginning, I wasn't a huge fan of this episode. It just all felt serviceable. Obviously Brie's storyline is emotional and powerful. Because her dealing with Andrew's sexuality is something that will plague her for several seasons, and her lack of a relationship with him. But everything else is, the Mrs. McCluskey stuff is emotional and nice, but everything else is just kind of meh.
Yeah.
I'm really tired of this Gabby and Carlos thing. Because fortunately, in next week's episode, Fear No More, they have a going away party for Carlos. So he is finally going to jail just in time for the finale.
Yeah, it's there's some stuff popping up in episode 20. We're getting near to the end of this first season. We have, I think, 4 episodes left. I think we're gonna get more. We have the party for Carlos. We have Mr. George Williams returns, and then there's an introduction. There's gonna be some interesting stuff between Tom and Lynette involving another person, I think. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And, it's interesting too, looking back across this season, we have been so conditioned to having seasons wrap within 10 episodes. I mean, I know The Pit is a little bit different. And, sometimes they're more, sometimes they're less, but mostly it is around 10 episodes that dramedies offer now. And we're so conditioned to that, going through, now next week is episode 20 of a 23 episode season. It just feels like we've watched 4 seasons of this show and it's still the first season.
It would be very interesting when we get to the finale, if we thought about if this was made in 2025, and even if the season was longer than 10 and it was like The Pit and did 12 or even 15, it would be interesting if we could figure out maybe what plot lines they would keep and which ones they would completely cut out. That might be an experiment we can think about doing. But it would be very direct. This mystery would be wrapped within 10 episodes for sure.
Yes, which is also, it brings to mind, of course, the Wisteria Lane adaptation that is coming up from Kerry Washington's production company. Makes me, kind of think how they will juggle, because there are some sort of detours that are nice little detours. There are moments of female bonding that are nice to watch. There's emotional moments that we have. Like, I think, this whole Mrs. McCluskey side plot would probably be jettisoned if the season had to be 10 to 12. we may not even see her character at all.
Yeah, she would. Yeah, I don't think she would. She would probably be somebody who doesn't have as much screen time. She probably wouldn't have as many episodes like that.
But the season 1 may have ended, like if this were modern plotting, season 1 may have ended with the death of Martha Huber, and they would have carried this across 2 seasons.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, totally. You're totally right. All right. Well, let's get the hell out of here. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast and our main podcast, Contending at the Water Cooler, on your favorite podcast app. If you check out the site, there's a lot of Emmy stuff going on right now. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are almost done, like we said, with this first season. So if you haven't, make sure you go back and listen to some other episodes. We will return next time with our recap of episode 20, Fear No More, which is a good reference to a Sondheim musical that is not produced very often because it's very hard. So from both of us here at Desperate Housewives Revisited, we will see you next time on Wisteria Lane.